So, welcome back, and congratulations, it feels so peaceful today. It really seems that things are settling and we need longer than this. But what did Ajahn Brahm say? People usually get deep on the last day, so actually a weekend retreat's perfect, because the first day is the first day, and the second day is the last day. So the more weekend retreats you do, the more opportunity you have to get enlightened on the last day. That makes sense, right? But anyway, the beauty of this practice is we can actually gain insight every moment on this path if we have the right attitude. And so today I wanted to build a little bit on what Ajahn Brahm began yesterday. He actually told me, he admitted, that yesterday was more a collection of stories with a few suttas woven in, and he sort of said, why don't you just do it all again? And I said, no, I can't just do it all again. You already did it, and it was pretty good. So, and I think you got the idea about right endeavor, about this idea of basically trying to cultivate wholesome states and lessen the states that cause suffering. So sometimes the word wholesome, unwholesome, certainly good and bad, positive, negative, feel a little bit judgmental. But if we think of the path in terms of what lessens suffering and what exacerbates suffering, then we're kind of on the right track. The things that lessen suffering are, of course, the things that create happiness and peace. So the two things are synonymous. But in this way, we don't need to judge our practice or judge our minds. We just simply look at everything from the perspective of whether it's increasing or lessening suffering inside ourselves. So it is a very compassionate path that the Buddha's teaching. And I wanted to begin just at the last part of right endeavor to remind ourselves about maintaining wholesome states. I'm not sure if Ajahn Brahm went through this just a little bit quickly, but I'll start from there. So I don't know, it doesn't look like any of you have the book in your hand, but that shouldn't matter too much. One of you does, very good. It's always better to drink in the Dhamma through the heart than through the head. That's my personal feeling. So if you can just relax and practice as you hear the Buddha's words, it's even more powerful. It's like it soaks in. So here we go, the effort, luckily Ajahn Brahm's down the road in our old vihara having a snooze, so he didn't hear me. The endeavour to maintain. And what is the endeavour to maintain? So of course this means maintain the wholesome states or the states of mind that alleviate suffering. So here you keep in mind an arisen meditation object, or I would say probably quality is included here, that generates stillness, such as recollecting the Buddha, the Dhamma, or the Sangha. I don't know how many people here get joy from recollecting these things, but it's very beautiful if we can actually meditate as though offering our practice to the Buddha. It's a way of lessening the sense of self, lessening the idea or the kind of obsession in a way with what is in this for me. We meditate to give something back to our teachers, something back to the Buddha himself, and for the sake of truth, the Dhamma, the principles of Dhamma that apply to everybody's mind. So we can recollect these things and it should give uplift to the mind. Or we recollect a skeleton. How about that? Actually, we had a visiting nun at our monastery about 2 months ago, and we had a half-day retreat, and she actually decided to do a skeleton meditation as part of death contemplation. And she went through the skeleton, like imagining your own skeleton, even feeling the kind of bones in the head, the bones in the skull and down the spine, and eventually kind of imagining that skeleton dissolving and just disintegrating back to the earth element to earth element, just dissolving, even before we've died, right? And many people got very peaceful, and they actually found that anything but kind of morbid and scary, but actually very sobering and very peaceful. Really conducive to ease and to peace. So meditating on a skeleton, the other way we can meditate on a skeleton is actually to use the idea of a skull, which is white, as a kind of image in the mind. If you are a visual person and you can kind of easily create a kind of visualization in the mind of a skeleton. When the mind gets still and focused on that, it actually starts to shine. So it can turn into a beautiful white nimitta if you meditate on the skull. But for those who may prefer it, or loving kindness. That's why I said qualities as well as meditation objects, because loving kindness is not really so much about where you generate that loving kindness, who you direct the loving kindness towards. It's more about the quality that's arising and developing inside your heart. So it starts off sometimes as a kind of verbalization or a kind of idea, a well-wishing, a kind of intention, if you like. And after some time, intentions create new habits in the mind. They actually create our emotional world. So what starts with a thought becomes a felt experience for us. And we start to feel that metta arising within ourselves. And metta is often a beautiful quality to really embody and to really allow to suffuse the body and the sensations in the body, especially if you have some sickness. This kind of relates to where I'm going with mindfulness, but was it 6 years ago now? I had a melanoma diagnosis on my arm, so I have a tough forest non scar. Actually, I don't think we need tough forest nuns. We got enough tough forest monks. But anyway, I have my scar to show that I've been there and survived. And everything seemed to be going well, although I had to travel to Perth about 4 days after the operation. So I had this big scar on my arm and, really bandaged up. And I thought things were fine until I checked it about a week later, and it was totally infected. It was really, really bad. And the dissolvable stitches hadn't dissolved, and every little place where the stitch goes in was a kind of pustule, with pus oozing out. So I didn't really want to mess with it. And I couldn't get straight to the doctor. So I decided to meditate on loving kindness. And I asked Ajahn Brahm at the time, should I generate loving kindness to my arm? Or is that kind of too much intention? I'm meditating to send you loving kindness, hoping that you'll heal. I don't know about you, but do you often think I better practice loving kindness to feel better, or to make somebody change, or to make myself change, or make myself feel more loved or more acceptable to others? It's okay, it's understandable, because we come from a sense of self a lot of the time, unless we've seen the Dhamma, and even then we can still forget from time to time. But actually real metta is loving for the sake of developing that loving quality in our heart, no matter what. So whether the arm heals or not, it's worthwhile practicing loving kindness. And then it becomes much more genuine, like if you're a mother or a father, any parent or caregiver, even a abbot of a monastery with trainee nuns. I must say it's a very unusual and new experience for me, but it's a beautiful experience to feel this sense of real, genuine care and a wish to nurture another person's growth in whatever way I possibly can. It's a very beautiful feeling, And I've asked myself, because as you see, I've got 2 very wonderful trainees and both very different, and I honestly can't compare. I honestly can't compare the feeling of wanting to support and guide and protect and nurture their growth on this spiritual path. It's completely equal, and I hope without expecting anything in return, although I'm getting a lot. I'm getting a lot of a feeling of reward and enrichment in my own monastic life. So that's the genuine loving kindness that just gives, because it's a beautiful thing to do. So he said, don't generate the loving kindness specifically to your arm, but just practice it in a generalized way, just kind of start meditating. I do a lot of metta meditation, so I kind of knew how it works. So I just started practicing metta, made myself really comfortable, but motivated through compassion to alleviate this suffering, this sickness in my arm. And I was in the meditation for about 3 hours, feeling really soft, really peaceful, really open-hearted. And I don't know if it's connected, but it just so happens that the next day, the infection was a little bit less, and a little bit less, and a little bit less, until it completely healed. And this is one of the powers of mindfulness when it's suffused with loving kindness. Of course, mindfulness has to be there with all of these qualities, But the point of beginning here today is that I want to just indicate and make a very important point that mindfulness alone is not what the Buddha taught. When we have this right mindfulness as part of the Noble Path, the word right, again, is not a moral judgment. It's not that something else is wrong, although there can be something called miccha sati, which is like wrong mindfulness. But it basically means right in the sense that it is empowered with the other factors of the path, the previous factors of the path, which include right view, so understanding something about suffering, and that suffering is a universal experience that anybody who's born has to experience in one way or the other. I don't know, is there anyone here who has never suffered? You're actually laughing, so that means you really know the stupidity of thinking that's even possible. What about an arahat? Do they suffer? Yes. Do they? How many people think the arahat still suffers? Wow, that's pretty good going, actually. So you're the hardcore disciples of Ajahn Brahm. Is that right? Yeah? So they suffer, or there is suffering, could we say. But they don't own that suffering anymore. There's no owner of the suffering. It's just suffering arising, suffering passing away. But they're still in the realm of suffering, so long as the khandas are here, the body and mind are here, then we're in this realm of suffering. We've been born into it through our own stupidity. I was tempted to say idiocy, but anyway, I'll leave those words to Ajahn Brahm. But we're here, and now the question is, how do we handle all of this? And so with an understanding that suffering is a part and parcel of life, this should lead, ideally, to a sense of compassion, which is part of the second factor of the path. And this compassion, as part of right intention, is also complemented by loving kindness and letting go, or letting things be, giving things away, not owning everything we experience, but rather understanding that it's part of nature, it's part of life. And because of this, when we establish our mindfulness, we already have these beautiful motivations of kindness, compassion, and letting go, which are further developed through the right endeavors, restraining the unwholesome again, abandoning the unwholesome that have arisen already, developing the wholesome through these practices, and maintaining them. And the last two in this section are, in the effort to, or endeavor to maintain, are that one recollects the breath. So that's our Anapana meditation, Anapanasati. And recollecting it means staying with it, keeping it in mind. Anusati means going along with, the mindfulness that follows along with something. So following along with the breath. Or a nimitta. And this is called the effort to maintain. So we have to learn how to maintain these things. And of course that is also an aspect of compassion, learning how to allow ourselves the happiness of peace. Is peace boring? Who thinks peace is boring? Honestly, if you could choose between sitting peacefully or I don't know what else you might like to do. Go dancing through the countryside. No hints here. We sometimes do that actually at the monastery. Not dance, just go out and have a nice walk. But honestly, given half a chance, we often choose activity over peace. And yet peace has a beauty, it has a power to it, and it's so deeply nourishing and satisfying for the mind. So by just valuing these qualities, valuing the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, valuing meditating with the skeleton or with loving kindness, the breath or a nimitta, that valuing of them, that maintaining contentment with them, is enough to keep them there, is to keep them in your mind. So you don't have to grab after anything, just recognizing that it's important, that it's beautiful, being content with these things. Even if it's just like a 2-second little star in the mind, that's your nimitta. Maybe even just a little tiny flash. It's like, can you be content with that? That's beautiful. It's like a little star appeared in your mind. You don't have to judge it. It's not yours anyway. It's part of nature, so let it be. So, on to Right Mindfulness, because I am going to actually read the sutta today. I will read from the Word of the Buddha. It's page 60, 61. And hopefully some of what I've already said will help answer the question someone had yesterday, which is, why does mindfulness not always work? So here we go. What now is right mindfulness? Samasati. And then Ajahn Brahm has translated the Satipatthana passages, some of the passages there, and he's translated this as the 4 focuses of mindfulness. So this is an interesting translation. Normally it's known as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Do most of you know what those 4 are? Or who doesn't know? Okay, so the 4 foundations or focuses of mindfulness are basically the body. It's things you can directly be percipient of, be aware of. The body, the feelings, which might mean bodily feelings or mental feelings of happiness or pleasure, neutral feelings or feelings that are unpleasant in the body or the mind. And then the mind itself, the different mental states, and the contents of the mind. Yeah, so the things that go through the mind, especially thinking, hindrances, and even things like the Four Noble Truths, principles of the Dhamma. Anything we can kind of recollect or reflect on at all. So they're the 4 focuses of mindfulness, and the reason for the translation focuses is because mindfulness already needs to be established before we put our mind in these areas. And this is why practicing mindfulness on its own often doesn't work, because we haven't actually yet put the causes in place for genuine mindfulness to arise. And as I said, one of those most preliminary causes is an appreciation of right view, which means suffering, and that things are conditioned. So some appreciation that our actions have effects. Yeah, if we act with a pure mind, then it usually leads to happiness. Usually immediately, actually, you feel happy just by giving something to another person, or putting the toilet roll in the toilet roll holder instead of leaving it for the next person to do, or being compassionate when somebody says, actually, now's not the right time to answer your question. Just giving them the benefit of the doubt rather than giving in to anger and ill will. These kind of motivations, these kind of qualities are a foundation for the mindfulness that works, the mindfulness that's kind, forgiving, compassionate, and inclusive of whatever comes to mind, yeah? Sila is there, of course, as well. So that's another reason mindfulness doesn't always work. So anyway, once we have this preliminary mindfulness established, then we can turn it on to the deeper aspects of body and mind and try to understand their nature. So this is from the Satipatthana Sutta, that's Majjhima Nikaya number 10. The 4 focuses of mindfulness lead in one direction only, to the purification of beings, to going beyond sadness and crying, to the disappearance of physical and mental suffering, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of Nibbana. What are the 4? I'm still holding you in suspense because first, many times the Satipatthana Sutta is translated as the 4 foundations of mindfulness are the only path. And the actual Pali is ekayano maggo, which literally means lead in one direction only, not the only path. Mindfulness is part of an 8-fold path. And the Buddha said that wherever you find people practicing the 8-fold path, there you'll find enlightened beings. Yeah, this was an answer when some other people from different religions came to the Buddha, and they said, can people from different sects and different religions also be enlightened? Do we have enlightened people in, say, Islam or in Judaism or Hinduism or Christianity or Druidism? I don't know. Do we have agnostic enlightened people? And the Buddha said, wherever people practice the Eightfold Noble Path, there you'll find enlightened beings. This is how universal the Dhamma is. You know, sometimes people say, is the Dhamma, is Buddhism a religion, or is it a philosophy? Is it a way of life? What is the Dhamma? What is Buddhism? And I like to say it's a path. It's more than a philosophy. It's not something we need to kind of get right in our head and think about. It's something we need to practice. It's something we need to walk. So Buddhism is actually a path. The Buddha's giving us a path out of suffering and into peace. Deep peace that actually ends all suffering. So what are the 4 focuses of mindfulness? And here you'll also notice a prerequisite to genuine mindfulness arising. Having restrained the 5 hindrances, number 1, you abide aware of the body, the first focus of mindfulness. Energized, knowing the purpose of what you're doing, and mindful. The second one, having restrained the 5 hindrances, you abide aware of experience. That's Ajahn translation of Vedana, which usually is translated as feeling. But experience is really good, because Veda or Vedayati literally does mean to experience. Energized, knowing the purpose of what you're doing, and mindful. Number 3, having restrained the 5 hindrances, you abide aware of the mind, citta. Energized, knowing the purpose of what you're doing, and mindful. And number 4, having restrained the 5 hindrances, you abide aware of mind objects. Energized, knowing the purpose of what you're doing, and mindful. So these are all aspects of what it means to be mindful. We first need to lessen the hindrances, restrain them. And because this is after right effort, we already have developed some of the wholesome states. And wholesome states are like having friends in your house. I shouldn't really say this on, I don't know, live stream or video, but anyway, some of the year we're away on retreat. And when we're away on retreat, we don't want any burglars or any kind of, I don't know, who might come into the monastery grounds. And so what's the best way to prevent that? Do you put an alarm on the house, or, I don't know, do you kind of say, keep out, or put horrible barbed wire? Or is there a better way to restrain those unwanted people? And the answer is you fill up your monastery with good friends, right? So that's what we do, and we have people coming to take care of the place and to, you know, keep the devas happy, do some meditation, and that way the place is protected. So in the same way in our mind, you know, the way to keep out the 5 hindrances is not only to restrain them, but also to develop the wholesome states. If you're feeling content, there's no need for craving. You know, just like in that wishing game, if you really are deeply content, the reason you're so content is because there's no wanting at that moment. There's no craving for anything at all. And the minute the craving arises, you've lost the contentment. You've moved away. You've moved into the future. You're not satisfied anymore. So when we put these beautiful, wholesome qualities in place, the 5 hindrances are restrained, and we already find it easy to be aware. That's why we get energized. You know, loving kindness gives energy to the mind. Obviously, nimittas are a very intense kind of energy in the mind. It's actually something that arises when the mind is energized and free from the hindrances, or getting almost free. And then knowing the purpose of what you're doing. So it's not just being mindful. I'm just mindful no matter what. Somebody's sawing my arm off and I'm just aware, yes, you're sawing my arm off, never mind, I'm aware of the pain. This is not mindfulness. Mindfulness would be to try and move away and to try and stop that person doing harm. Not with ill will, but because you have compassion for yourself and you value your arm, and you also value this person who's creating terrible karma. There's actually a little sutta, possibly in the Yaka Samyutta, of, is it Suchiloma? And Suchiloma was this little yaka, which are kind of these little impish beings in, they're not exactly devas, they're I think lower realm than that. but invisible to most people. So whether you believe them or not, but the yakas are quite playful usually, and a little bit mischievous. Yeah, probably like many of us, I should imagine. And this yaka comes to the Buddha and he wants to check him out. So he says, oh, you know, this Buddha, he's supposed to be equanimous to everything. Let's see if he really is. And so he comes and sits right up to the Buddha, and he's got spikes. That's why he's called Suchi Loma. Suchi is like needle, I think, and Loma is like hair, so hair like needles sticking out. Some people are like that, right? You think they're soft, but you do one little thing that they don't appreciate, and choom, the spikes come out. You know, have you noticed that? Some people have, you know, you can get pretty close before the spikes come out, and they're not all that sharp. And some people don't have any spikes at all, even if you poke them. And so what about the Buddha? Which one was he? Did he just sit there getting spiked? So he sat next to the Buddha, and the Buddha was like, And he leant into the Buddha a bit, and you know what the Buddha did? He moved. He moved away. And then Suchiloma, being a little imp, went a bit closer again. And again the Buddha moved away. And so he said to the Buddha, see, you're not equanimous, you're not enlightened. But the Buddha basically said something like, it's a long time since I read this, but he basically said something like, I move away out of compassion for myself. So if your back hurts, then out of compassion for yourself, move away from the chair that's hurting it, or from the posture that's putting you in pain, you know. If a friendship or a relationship is toxic for you, you can move away. Please tell your friends about it, please get the support you need, but please try and find a safe way to leave that toxic situation. You don't have to just be equanimous. You have to know the purpose of what you're doing with wisdom, with compassion for yourself as well, right? How many people think compassion means always being agreeable to everybody and doing exactly what they ask of you at any time? No. I used to think that, but now I think I'm included too in this relationship, and if I need something, then that's okay as well. You know, if I need a rest and it's not the right time to answer another question or whatever it might be, then that's okay for me to say not now. So this is compassion for ourselves. We understand the purpose. We're trying to lessen suffering in this world, and you know, we have to allow other people to have their reactivity too sometimes, and maybe they will learn from that. They'll learn that, you know, their mindfulness doesn't have quite enough compassion there yet. So, I'm not getting very far, in true style of my teacher, but let's continue on. And I will be quick with this, because if you want to go into more detail with mindfulness of breathing, I actually taught this on the retreat we just did together, on the online retreat. I think some of you were there. There was a sutta discussion one day, a few days ago, on mindfulness of breathing in detail. So I'm not going to do that again. You can look on our YouTube channel if you wish. So we've already established this mindfulness, compassionate mindfulness, based on right view, with the hindrances lessened. And only then does the Buddha say, you go to a quiet, secluded place, sit down comfortably, and give priority to establishing mindfulness. This is the translation of putting mindfulness in front of you. Sometimes that's taught, and in some traditions, like my old tradition, Goenka, with S.N. Goenka, he used to say putting your mindfulness at the tip of the nose or in front of the nose, this area here. But that's actually not what it means. It means the first thing you do is establish your mindfulness. And that's why often we begin with this body scanning, co-joined with kindness. We have to put something in there with it, some intentional compassion, because otherwise we'll just default back to our usual way of looking, which is often a bit brittle, a bit dry, maybe a bit tense and reactive. So if we have compassion, if we just soften that awareness with an intention to alleviate the suffering in our bodies and minds, then it's easier to stay present with whatever arises. So we give priority to establishing mindfulness. Then, mindful you breathe in, mindful you breathe out. So it's not saying you watch the breath, is it? That's very different. You're mindful, And then the breathing is automatically received into that mindful awareness. You see the difference there? So there's a background of compassionate mindfulness, or soft awareness, or loving awareness, unconditional mindfulness. And then you breathe in and breathe out. That's happening anyway. So you're just giving priority to the mindfulness, and the breath just comes into the mind. When the in-breath and out-breath are long, you're aware that they are long. Not you breathe in long, you breathe out long. When they're long, you just know that they're long. When the in-breath and out-breath are short, you're aware that they're short. Compassionately aware. Then you learn to experience the whole of the breath as you breathe in and out. Which is a great translation, because in the suttas it sometimes says the body of the breath, which sounds strange. And people sometimes mistake that to mean the actual body, and that you experience the breathing in the whole body. But even in the Anapanasati Sutta, in Majjhima Nikaya, translated by Bhikkhu Bodhi, it does say that the Buddha himself says, the breath, I consider the breath one of the bodies in the body. So by that he means the whole body of the breath. So you experience the whole breath from the start to the end. So it's like a stroke of a brush. At first you might just know that there is a brush stroke, and if it's coming down or going up. But at this stage you know the whole stroke. Your mindfulness, it's with the breath. The mindfulness is there, and the whole breath like strokes the mind. I really like seeing it the other way around. It's like the breath comes in and caresses your mind. It's beautiful. It's just soothing and calming your mind. I remember doing a meditation once in Perth. It sounds a bit silly, but it really worked for me. It was like imagining that the breath is like, I was like in a car wash. It sounds really silly. I've never been to a car wash. But my car was in the wash, and then the little breaths were like polishing it and washing it. And that was my mind getting shined up by these little breaths. And it was such a nice perception, I don't know. And whenever the breaths would come and start polishing my car or my mind, the mind would get really happy. Oh, it's you again. And the breath would get really happy too, like, oh, she's back with us. And the whole thing just built and built. It was very beautiful. But anyway, you can be playful. Don't try that maybe, but you might have some other images that come to mind. And then the fourth one, you learn to calm the breath. Kaya Sankara. Yeah, the breath is Kaya Sankara. It's of the body as you breathe in and out. And this doesn't mean you actively calm the breath. It just means you learn to watch in such a way that the breath starts to settle on its own, because you're not fueling the breath. You're not clinging to the breath. You're not making it happen. And the whole body relaxes. When the body relaxes, you don't need so much breath. So the breath just naturally becomes calm as your mind becomes calm. In a way, it's a reflection of the state of your mind. Oh, look, we have that simile here. Just as a skilled painter is aware whether they're making a long brush stroke or a short brush stroke, so too, when the in-breath is long, you're aware that it's long, etc. In this way, you're aware of your own body, or you're aware that the bodies of others are the same nature as yours, or you abide aware of the nature of both your own and others' bodies. Or else you abide aware of what causes the arising of the body, that is, the four nutriments. Now, here we are actually back to the physical body. So it's a little bit confusing that it comes straight after that, and I'm not sure if it's all the same sutta or not here. I think it might be. So it's part of the Satipatthana Sutta, and the breath meditation is one of the meditations related to the body in the Satipatthana Sutta. So this is actually about the physical body now. So we're aware that the bodies of others are of the same nature as ours, or you abide aware of the nature of both our own and others' bodies. So can you see how this could create more compassion towards your body and other people's? Less judgment. They're just the same. We all have, if we're lucky, we have our limbs, we have our sense faculties, we have a tummy, we have a back, we have a head. Yeah, it looks different, I remember saying something to Ajahn Brahm recently about, I think my face has aged, because being monastics, you still sometimes think like this. And he said, it's not your face, it's nature's face. Oh, that was really sweet. Oh yeah, it's just nature's face. Oh, that's really nice. None of this belongs to us, and none of it belongs to you either. Your body is not yours. You're just a custodian of your body for the time it's alive. But eventually, just like with that skeleton meditation, it has to go back into the ground, back to nature. 4 elements, that's all it is, It's earth element, the hard parts of the body. It's water element, the liquids. What else is there? Fire element, the temperature in the body. Now we feel the heat, we feel the cold and everything in between. When we die, that element just disappears. The body gets cold, we don't feel those feelings anymore. And lastly, the air element, the element of movement that's responsible for the movement in the body, the breathing coming in and out, and everything that's causing our bodies to be mobile, to allow us to move. So all these elements disappear, and knowing this, we can be much more compassionate, compassionately aware. We're so incredibly fortunate to have a human birth, to have a human body with all the faculties intact. We have enough faculties to be able to understand the Dhamma, right? If you do get into deep meditation and then later reflect on the subjects that create insight in the mind, the Buddha will continually point to the body and the mind. The 5 Kandas, body, feeling, perception, volition, if you like, and consciousnesses. Or the 6 senses, the eyes, ear, nose, tongue, smell. What else? Touch and mind as well. Even the mind, right, is one of the 6 senses. So this is just body. It's really not to be overly concerned about. We care for it, but to fuss over it, to get encumbered by it, to obsess over it, this creates a whole heap of suffering, and we become encumbered by our own and others' bodies. If you have children, you've got 10 Kandas or 20 Kandas. I don't know how many Kandas are running around your house. So, I don't know, that's the same with the monastery. We get more and more Kandas in there. It's like more and more complicated. What kind of mix and concoction of Kandas are we having today? But it's just Kandas arising and passing away. So the second one was abiding aware of what causes the arising of the body, the 4 nutriments, or you abide aware that the body will cease when the 4 nutriments cease. Or you abide contemplating the body's causal nature of both arising and ceasing. So this is quite deep, because we're not just looking at the fact that the body is here and later it will pass away, but there is a type of meditation I used to do a lot of with the Vipassana that Goenkaji teaches, and that was observing the arising and passing of feelings at a very sort of high velocity. So you were seeing arising and passing, but the thing that was missing for me, that one of my teachers pointed out, was not really seeing why it keeps arising, why the body and the feelings are constantly arising. They pass away, but they keep coming back. And here the Buddha's saying that there are 4 nutriments for the arising of the body. So this is how we know it can't be me, it can't be mine, it cannot be a self. It's dependently arisen. And the 4 nutriments are ahara, which is food, right? The food we eat originates this body. If you eat certain types of food, you look one way. If you eat other types of food, you look another way. If you live in India, you eat one kind of food that suits your system that you've grown up with. If you are born somewhere else, like the UK, you might also have been brought up on Indian food. But if you're really lucky. I think it was the national dish, wasn't it, several years ago? Yeah, I was brought up with it. And then I thought when I was, 18, I thought, gosh, if I travel to India, I can eat Indian food like every day. This is amazing. That's not the real reason I went there, but it was certainly an advantage of being in India. I lived in India for about 15 years, about 7 years total, but across 15 years. So it is actually my spiritual home. Anyway, so we have the ahara, which is one of the causes for the arising of the body. And then we have contact, phassa, and that means contact with any of the 6 sense bases, which I've already talked about. So sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind. We have to have some contact at those sense doors, otherwise the body actually dies. And I don't know if this was a dream, but yeah, there have been cases where people have been in comas, and to bring them out of those comas, what has actually ended up working was either physical touch or words of assurance, like some contact or the other with the senses. And when the person doesn't have that contact, then they're likely to just disappear. Also, if you're in a coma, the consciousness is turned off for long enough that eventually the body dies. And that's the third ahara, the third nutriment is consciousness. And what's the other one? The other one is sankhara, which is volition. So in a sense, we have to want this body to persist. And I don't know if any of you have known elderly people or people who are very, very ill, and at some point they just give up what we call the will to live. They just give it up. And at that time their dying process tends to speed up. It might not be that they immediately die, but there's less keeping them alive. Whereas if somebody really wants to continue it, especially if they have a real purpose in their life, then they're much more likely to survive. Of course, this isn't always the case, but there's an aspect of this there. There has to be a volition. There has to be some consciousness. There has to be, what's the other one? The contact with the senses, and of course the suitable food. So this is one of the reasons the body arises and ceases. And then lastly, or else, the last way of being mindful is that it is just a body. It is just a body. It is no big deal. It's just body, not my body, not your body, not a beautiful body, a fat body, an ugly body. You know, all of this is fabricated. None of this is really true. So mindfulness that it's just a body, in brackets here, impermanent, suffering, and not me, not mine, not a permanent essence. So that's Ajahn Brahm's translation of anatta, not self, not me, not mine, it doesn't belong to me, and not a permanent essence. It cannot be me. It can't be that this I exists inside the body, or that the body is inside a self, or anything. It can't be apart from the self. It can't be the same as a self. Any way you look at it, if the self is your body, then when the body perishes, the self is no more. But how can that be the case, especially since this body is constantly changing? You know, which body is you? Is it the 2-year-old body? Is it the body that has yet to come? Is that you? Is this body you? If you look carefully, the body's changing all the time. Some of you are in pain today, you weren't in pain so much yesterday. Some of you, I don't know, were really healthy yesterday. Hopefully you're even healthier today. I don't know. So some of you are hot, some of you are cold. It's just a body. It's not yours. So this understanding is established in you to the extent necessary for mindfulness in wisdom, essential for liberation. The mindfulness and wisdom essential for liberation. The mindfulness and wisdom that carries compassion. Is there really any possibility to be wise without compassion? You know, what is the motivation, first of all, for that wisdom? And secondly, if you're wise and yet you're cruel, why be wise? I mean, where's the value in wisdom then? You know, the hallmark of wisdom is compassion. So seeing the body, seeing the mind as non-self is a part of seeing things in a compassionate way. It gives rise to more compassion, more connection, right? I think compassion is very much based on empathy and a sense of common humanity, a sense of we're in this together. We don't want to cause other people harm. We don't want to cause ourselves harm. And we want to encourage the mindfulness and wisdom to arise in ourselves and in others, to be liberated from this whole thing. And then it ends with, you abide independent, not clinging to anything in the world. That is one way that you're mindful of the body. Not clinging to anything in the world as me, as mine, or as self. So this ends a short reading on the 4 focuses of mindfulness. And hopefully that's helped to explain why mindfulness on its own is not enough. Just being aware, of whatever arises in whatever way you want to be aware is not enough. We need to empower our mindfulness with right view, with compassion. That's the theme of this retreat, with loving kindness, with a sense of non-owning and understanding that this body, this mind, cannot be a self. We don't own it, we can't control it. We can just let it be. And sometimes letting things be actually allows them to heal. Even letting our relationships be when they're conflicted can allow things to just loosen up a bit and things to shift, giving each other space. There's so many ways we can be compassionately aware in our day-to-day life, using our speech compassionately, thinking before we speak, or maybe just keeping silent when we don't know what to say. So these are ways that we build up the mindfulness, and that's how it relates to right effort. I think I'll end actually with a little verse, which is in the also in the Yaka Samyutta, I think, and it's a really cute little verse because it answers the question of why mindfulness is not enough. And there's this little being, a little yaka, again. I'm obviously feeling a bit like a yaka today because I'm relating to these people. And it says something like this little being, this little demon, goes to the Buddha and says, Buddha, it's always good for the mindful one. The mindful one dwells in happiness. Better each day for the mindful one, and they're free from enmity. Sounds reasonable, maybe? And then the Buddha says, it's always good for the mindful one. The mindful one dwells in happiness. Better each day for the mindful one, but they are not free from enmity. And then he says, one who dwells all day and night, taking delight in harmlessness, who has loving kindness for all beings, for them there is enmity with none. So it's mindfulness and compassion, mindfulness and loving kindness that dissolves these hindrances that cause us to suffer. So this is why we thought we'd do this theme for the weekend. So may this teaching be of benefit to all of you here. Oh, and now
discussing, in order to have a lovely full program this afternoon, well balanced. Then we're going to finish the guided meditation at 15:05. Just half an hour. So those of you who get into a jhana, don't worry, just carry on. We won't be able to get you out anyway. So just go in there and you'll be stuck there pleasantly all the afternoon. And don't worry again, we'll take you back somewhere, so you don't get stuck in here. Okay, so let's get started. So if you can, just get yourselves comfy. When you're nice and comfortable, just relax the body and relax the mind. You have nothing to do in the whole world. This is your free time. Time to be free. It's a guided meditation, isn't it? Okay, good. And I look at my body. I thank it for looking after me. I'm grateful to my body. So I'm still very much alert to what my body needs. I don't discuss it with my body. I experience the sensations in my body. And I don't try and pressure my body. I try and keep a light heart. One of the things which I notice in my body, I always tend to lean back, and that's weird, it's kind of uncomfortable for me. Feel my body, and I encourage it to relax. Relax to the max. What does that mean? To relax as much as is possible. With my eyes closed, I can feel much more as my body starts to get comfortable in this posture, in this moment. And one of the important parts is being patient. Being a patient means you're not reciprocating. You're not doing anything. Being a patient means you're passive. With kindness and appreciation. When I'm being passive, I can experience much more without trying to react. I'm just asking my body, is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? Until I get to that point where the body says, no, this is good enough. And when it's good enough, it's a great sense of relief. You don't have to try. You don't have to do things. Everything is nicely balanced. And once the body is reasonably calm, it's time to relax the mind. You see the body walking, doing things. It's easy to understand how the body gets tired. What about your mind? You are called upon to make. And many decisions is not a right one. It's just one decision is slightly better than another. That's all. But still, there are problems. So right now, no decisions. I decide I don't have to do anything. So I won't do things. I'll receive, be at peace, and get to know. I don't know why, but the thing which comes up pretty soon is my breathing. I've been meditating for such a long time, it's my habit. Can you feel your breath? You're just going on, just breathing in, breathing out. Not exceptionally short, not exceptionally long. It's pretty average. So when I am being aware of my breathing, I'm also being aware with this kindness and gratitude, both together. I hardly ever just observe your breath. I just let you do your thing. And you do it so well. Which means I have nothing to do except just watch and appreciate. So breathing in with thank, breathing out you. Thank you. A mind of appreciation, a mind of gratitude, watching my own breath. What happens to me now is my breath becomes so beautiful. It's like being valued. Because of the value, I can see it so easy with no faults. I really try hard not to find fault with anything when I'm meditating. In this moment, being peaceful. How peaceful can you be? Relax to the max. And how do you do that? Not by forcing, by just being passive and letting it be. And being passive with patience. And as you are relaxing your mind, can you see the signs? See that it is actually getting more peaceful, more beautiful. No past, no future. Just in this moment, which you are sharing with myself, with Ajahn Chanda, with everybody. So please enjoy that peace, that safety, that sense that there's nothing you can improve on. This is good enough. I will now stop talking. Getting very close to the end of this meditation session. Don't open your eyes yet. How do you feel? How peaceful is the mind? And how much is it enjoying stillness, relaxing to the max? Instead of chasing the carrot, as the carrot started to come towards you, it just comes all by itself. Now you know how to catch the carrot. So I ask you now to open your eyes. It's 5 minutes past 3. And to relax. Sorry? Yeah. If you wish to stay, you may. And 15. Okay, 22. What are we doing now? Walking meditation and tea. And obviously, if you need to go to the toilet, don't drink too much tea. Otherwise, you'll be spending a lot of time in the toilet. One of the postures, yes, suppose so. So please, if you wish to stay here to do some more sitting meditation, fine. Or walking meditation, which is fine. This is also if you need a break for tea. 15:40. So at 22 for what are we doing? Is this a surprise? Q&A. Oh, Q&A. A Q&A. Quick question and answer. And what it usually is quick questions and long answers. QQLA. Anyway, I'll try my best. And please make sure you know what the question you wish to ask. And just to, especially those who haven't asked the question yet, they can do the first questions. And we'll see what we have. Okay, so walking meditation or sitting meditation or a cup of tea or sitting meditation on the toilet. It's a wonderful place to let go. Not to be attached, to renounce. Okay, off you go or off you stay.